Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment meeting for Friday, August 15, 2025. I hereby call this meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are working on the lands traditionally occupied by the Indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples continue to care for this land and continue to shape our township. We show our respect and we continually honor the treaties that were signed as we consider our decisions and actions. I would ask all members of committee if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Okay, seeing none, you've all had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes from July 11, 2025. I have a motion moved by Member Matthews, seconded by Member Rivet. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves the minutes of July 11, 2025 as circulated. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried. This morning, there is a public meeting for one consent application. If you wish to be notified of the decision of this application on the agenda this morning, please add your contact information to the paper that's on the desk, or if you're online, you can notify us electronically. I'll briefly summarize the procedure to be utilized for the meeting. First, the clerk will advise the committee as to when, how, and to whom notice of each of the hearings were circulated for the applications being considered. Next, each of the applications will be considered separately. Planning staff will advise of the purpose and effect of the applications and provide any other information that is relevant. The clerk will summarize any correspondence on file, and from there, the applicant may make a brief presentation if they so choose, and the public will have an opportunity to speak to the applications being considered. After the public forum, the committee will then deliberate on the proposed applications and consider a motion to pass, defeat, or defer the decision of the applications. The consent application this morning is B25-05 for 6 Island 660 in Georgian Bay. Madam Clerk.
Notice of the application was sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 120 meters, 500 meters, or 800 meters, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent at least 20 days prior to this morning's meeting. Included in each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the application and a key map showing the location of the property. Other relevant information may have also been provided. These circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act 1990.
Thank you. We'll begin with that one.
Yes.
Okay, so I would ask the planner then to provide us with an overview of this application.
Through the chair, the subject property has a cumulative lot area of 5.95 hectares and a frontage of over 300 meters on Georgian Bay. The lands are designated waterfront within the Honey Harbor Coastal Waterfront Community, forming part of Star Island. The property is zoned Shoreline Residential Island Type 2, Exception 19, identified as having moderate to high archaeological potential and a moderate wildfire hazard rating. Majority of the shoreline contains Type 2 fish habitat. However, 2 areas are zoned fish habitat Type 1. The lands are developed with 2 detached dwellings, each having their own septic system and attached decks, 3 sleeping cabins, and 2 docks. The buildings were constructed in the 1960s and 70s, with the exception of the 3rd sleeping cabin, which was legally constructed in 2002. The shoreline is dominated by granite rock and the lands are heavily vegetated. The photo on the top left side of the screen is a photo taken from the rear of the dwelling on the lot to be severed, facing the bay where the dock shown in the photo below on the lands to be retained is located. A site visit also confirmed that the sleeping cabins are not visible from the water, while the dwellings are screened. The purpose and effect of the application is to sever the subject lands, creating one new residential lot. The lands to be retained will have a lot frontage. Thank you. That's okay. The lands to be retained will have a lot frontage of 281.2 meters and an area of 3.2 hectares, whereas the lands to be severed will have a lot frontage of 272.5 meters and an area of 1.07 hectares. In accordance with the township's definition of lot area, where an island lot has multiple areas above the high water mark, separated by areas below the high water mark, each such area shall be considered separately and not cumulatively for the purposes of calculating lot area. The lands to be severed contain two areas above the high water mark. The larger of the two portions represents the lot area. As shown here, the existing buildings and structures are located outside of the Type 1 fish habitat. To confirm, no new buildings or structures are proposed. A fisheries impact assessment was prepared by Azimuth Environmental Consulting in support of the severance application, which concluded impacts to fish habitat are anticipated to be mitigable and there are no aquatic species at risk concerns related to the shoreline property. Future development is feasible on the two severed lots from a fisheries perspective, as there should be no significant impacts, temporary or permanent, to fish habitat, providing conformance is demonstrated for mitigation measures and recommendations. The isolated location and extent of Type 1 fish habitat within the two bays should allow for these areas to be avoided during future development activities. Therefore, Type 1 fish habitat will continue to be utilized by fish species similar to pre-development conditions. Hutchinson Environmental Sciences conducted a peer review of the assessment stating, the assessment relies on outdated aerial imagery and fish habitat mapping from 1993, which lacks the accuracy and detail needed to assess current site-specific conditions. So a site visit is recommended to confirm the present and extent of Type 1 fish habitat in accordance with relevant policies and guidelines. Fish habitat setbacks identified in the township's official plan and zoning bylaw are also not illustrated and should be provided. And the FHIA notes that future nearshore development may require fisheries screening and potential permitting from DFO or MNR, but it should also acknowledge that township approval is required for docks, boathouses, or similar infrastructure. While the fisheries impact assessment supports the feasibility of future development with appropriate mitigation measures, the peer review highlights a need for an assessment of current site-specific conditions. General policies for the District of Muskoka's waterfront area land use designation include but are not limited to natural form and function shall be the predominant characteristic of the landscape, and new development should generally have a physical character similar to or compatible with existing development in terms of density, lot sizes, maximum building heights, and minimum setbacks. As supported by photos of the subject lands taken from the water, natural form is the predominant characteristic of the landscape. The proposed severance will make the subject lands more compatible with existing development in terms of lot size, since most subdivided island properties in Honey Harbor, such as those on Deer Island, Thibodeau Island, and Island 1580, have an area of approximately 2 acres. And in terms of use, as properties are typically developed with one detached dwelling rather than 2. The district plan requires new residential shoreline lots to have a minimum lot area of 0.4 hectares and a minimum frontage of 60 meters. Larger lot areas and frontages may be required to accommodate the proposed use, address environmental constraints, or land use compatibility matters. To confirm, both lots exceed the district's minimum area and frontage requirements. Island development policies within the township's official plan state that the minimum lot size shall be no less than 1 hectare, and a plan of surveys prepared by an Ontario land surveyor shall be submitted by the applicant in order to confirm the applicable minimum lot size requirements can be satisfied. The applicant has supplied a draft reference plan which confirms the lands to be retained have an area of 3.2 hectares above the high water mark, and the lands to be severed have an area of 1.1 hectares above the high water mark. Similarly, within the Honey Harbor coastal waterfront community, the minimum lot area for all new lots should generally be 1 hectare, and the minimum lot frontage for all new lots should generally be 120 meters. Excuse me. The consent section of the official plan identifies, in addition to considering the proposed land use, lot sizes for the uses, compatibility, natural heritage compliance with the zoning bylaw, and sewage service in accordance with the policies of the official plan, sufficient frontage on each lot to ensure that there is an appropriate dock area and waterfront amenity area, both of which areas are outside of sensitive fish habitat and other environmental features, or it shall be demonstrated that there would be no negative impact to any of these features, and conformity with the water access policies shall be demonstrated. As stated previously, the lands are already developed with sewage and water services, with docks and waterfront amenity areas located outside of sensitive fish habitat. The subject lands are currently being accessed via Georgian Bay Landing Marina, and the applicant is proposing to keep this marina as the point of access. There are 6 additional marinas within the Honey Harbor coastal waterfront community. The Shoreline Residential Island Type 2 Exception 19 zone permits the lands to have 3 sleeping cabins with a combined floor area of 153 square meters. The remainder of the Shoreline Residential Island Type 2 zone requirements apply. To confirm, both lots exceed the minimum area and frontage requirements of this zone. To prevent the retained and severed lands from each being permitted 3 sleeping cabins with a combined floor area of 153 square meters, a rezoning from the Shoreline Residential Island Type 2 Exception 19 zone to the Shoreline Residential Island Type 2 zone is required. This zone permits 1 detached dwelling along with accessory buildings and structures. The subject lands are currently developed with 2 detached dwellings, which represents a legal nonconforming use. A legal nonconforming use refers to an existing use or activity on land or within a building or structure that does not comply with the permitted uses outlined in the zoning bylaw, but is allowed to continue. By severing the existing dwellings, the lands will be brought into compliance with the permitted uses of the SRI-2 zone. Additionally, to ensure further development in the future does not prevent negative impacts to the sensitive fish habitat or any species at risk which may exist on the densely forested island, staff are recommending as a condition of approval that the lands be rezoned with a hold. In conclusion, it is planning staff's professional opinion that the consent application is consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, conforms to the official plans, has appropriate regard for the criteria set out in Section 5124 of the Planning Act, and represents good planning. Staff have prepared and provided a revised resolution from that attached to the staff report. The revised resolution removes the condition for payment of parkland dedication. As the parkland dedication bylaw is clear, this requirement only applies to vacant lands. As discussed, both the lands to be retained and severed are developed. Staff are also supportive of revising the wording pertaining to the condition for a rezoning. The Committee of Adjustment may approve or deny the application. They may defer the application if additional information is required to come to a decision. Thank you.
One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating she has no concerns, and one letter was received from the District of Muskoka stating they would not be opposed to the approval of the application.
I notice that the applicant and their agent are present. Is there anything that you wish to add to the planner's comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. My name is Jamie Robinson. I'm the applicant for the agent. partner with MHBC Planning. We've reviewed the staff report. We agree with the recommendation to support the proposed consent applications. It's a fairly simple application. It's creating 2 lots. Each lot would contain an existing dwelling. Each lot has a docking site already. No additional developments proposed as a result of that. We are supportive of the revised conditions, specifically the one that removed the requirement for parkland dedication. There is a bylaw that the municipality has that doesn't require parkland dedication where you're separating 2 existing dwellings. Secondly, we're supportive of the revised condition. That was the zoning condition. Previously, it required a holding symbol. What the proposed revision would do is it requires the property to be appropriately zoned and then leaves that decision of what the appropriate zoning is ultimately up to council, because council is the body that makes decisions with respect to zoning bylaw amendments. So we believe that is an appropriate modified condition, and we can work through with staff before in terms of drafting what an appropriate bylaw is to bring to council. So that's really the only comments I want to make this afternoon, or this morning, sorry. And if there's questions, I can do my best to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. And just for the clarity of members of the committee, is everybody aware of the revised resolution, removing the parkland designation and removing the holding? Okay, everybody's good with that? All right. Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public present that wishes to address this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And seeing none, I will read the resolution. Is moved by member Graziano, seconded by member Schmidt. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional approval to consent application B25-05 for the creation of 1 new lot having a maximum frontage of 272 meters and a minimum lot area of 1.07 hectares and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the clerk of the township provide a written confirmation that a zoning bylaw amendment is in force in effect that rezones the subject lands to an appropriate zone to remove the site-specific zoning permissions and to prevent further development until such time that the lands have been assessed through an environmental impact study and site plan agreement has been entered into with the township. And 2, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property subject to this decision. 3, that a draft reference plan be completed by an Ontario land surveyor and a digital copy filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. 4, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. 5, that a draft transfer be prepared by a solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the parcels created by consent. And 6, that all fees and disbursements, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the applications be paid by the respective owners. So pursuant to section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of the giving of notice of decision. Section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of certificate. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Also, this morning, there's a public meeting scheduled for 6 minor variance applications. And again, if you wish to be notified, please sign at the front of the room or online if you're Zooming. The same procedure we will follow as with the previous consent application. Now, I'll briefly summarize that procedure. That first of all, the clerk will advise the committee as to when, how, and to whom each of the notice of each of the hearings was circulated for the applications being considered. Next, each of the applications that will be considered separately. Planning staff will advise as the purpose and effect of the applications and provide any information that's relevant. The clerk will summarize any correspondence on file, and from there, the applicant will make a brief presentation if they so choose. And the public will have an opportunity to speak to the applications being considered. After the public forum, the committee will then deliberate on the proposed applications and consider a motion to pass, defeat, or defer the decision of the applications. The minor variance applications being considered this morning is A25-33 for 84 Valley Road, A25-28 for 104 Bollocks Road, A25-29 for 195 Sanctuary Road, A25-30 for 36 Murphy's Road, A25-31 for 210 Stewart Lake Road, and A25-32 for 105 John Buckler Road. To the clerk, please.
Notice of each of the applications was sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 120 meters, 500 meters, or 800 meters, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent at least 20 days prior to this morning's meeting. Included in each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the application and a key map showing the location of the property. Other relevant information may also have been provided. These circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act 1990.
Thank you. Our first minor variance application this morning is A25-33 for 84 Valley Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject application is A25-33, the property being 84 Valley Road. The property known as 84 Valley Road is comprised of 0.16 hectares with a frontage of 60.96 meters on Little Lake on Gloucester Pool. Approximately 1/3 of the lot is underwater, leaving a small waterfront parcel for development. At the present time, there is a 62.14 square meter detached dwelling constructed in approximately 1930 and a 26.76 square meter boathouse constructed in approximately 1948, according to MPAC. Considering a large portion of the property is underwater, as noted in the photo above, there is very little opportunity to construct a new dwelling or even expand the existing dwelling and incorporate a conventional sewage treatment system in the overall design. There is also a great deal of granite rock that is also impeding further development of the property, as well as the location of a septic system. A minor variance was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on December 13th, 2024 for an increase in the maximum dwelling gross floor area and maximum height as per section 411E of the zoning bylaw in order to construct a new dwelling in the same footprint as the existing legal non-complying dwelling. A minor variance agreement was registered on title on March 5th, 2025, in order to ensure the fish habitat assessment prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, dated September 26, 2024, and the required erosion and sediment and control plan, prepared by Riverstone Environmental, dated September 11th, 2024. It was brought to the owner's attention that the existing holding tank would need to be replaced with a Class 4 sewage treatment system in order to service the new dwelling. A zoning certificate was issued for the construction of a new dwelling on May 6, 2025, and an application for a zoning certificate for a new sewage treatment system was received by the Township on the same day. It was determined that a minor variance would be required as the septic system location was not in conformity with Section 4.1.7A and Section 4.26 of the zoning bylaw. It appears that this aspect of the development was overlooked at the time of the variance for the new dwelling in December 2024. After substantial review with the chief building official, it was determined that a variance would be required to locate the new sewage treatment system in the location of the previous holding tank. MNT Consulting has been communicating with the chief building official on behalf of the applicant and has provided a report for the septic system design, which includes phosphorus management and removal. It was determined that there would be a need to blast an area of approximately 20 square meters in the removal and reuse of 10 cubic meters of rock. A blasting permit application has been submitted and will be considered by Planning Council on September 9th of this year. A condition is being recommended that a blasting permit be obtained prior to the minor variance being in force and effect. There has been no confirmation of any tree cover or vegetation is to be removed in order to support the development of the septic system. However, blasting is required. The owner should be cautioned if removal is necessary. It would be beneficial to retain as much natural vegetation and tree cover as possible, as per the recommendations in the fish habitat assessment prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions dated September 26th of last year. As blasting is to occur in order to accommodate the new septic system, a blasting permit application, as stated, has been submitted and will be presented to council. It was determined that there would be a need to blast an area of approximately 20 square meters and the removal and reuse of 10 cubic meters of rock. Due to the location of the replacement dwelling and the very limited lot area, as the lot is partially submerged, the owners are trying to locate the system in the same area as the existing holding tank. As the location is not in conformity with the setbacks in the zoning bylaw, a minor variance is being requested. As the existing holding tank must be replaced with a septic system to support the development of the property with a new dwelling, installing a tertiary treatment system with a Waterloo ECP phosphorus removal unit within the pre-treatment tank, which removes 90 to 99% of total phosphorus using iron electrode technology without producing sludge or altering pH levels. The prepared phosphorus removal method will be confirmed at the building permit stage to ensure compliance with the official plan's objective of protecting sensitive water bodies such as Little Lake. The minor variance agreement incorporates an erosion and sediment control plan and requirements to protect the natural features during construction. This will be required to be enforced during the construction of the new dwelling as well as the sewage treatment system. One additional thing I wanted to bring to council's attention this morning is I would like to amend the condition slightly, excuse me, and ask for one additional condition be added. I don't feel it's imperative that we amend the minor variance agreement that's already registered on title, but this property should be subject to site plan control and that a site plan agreement be registered on title for specifically this septic system on the property. So the committee can either approve or deny any of the requested variances. The committee can defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. And planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the application and are recommending approval, subject to the recommended conditions, including the requirement of applying for and obtaining site plan approval if deemed appropriate by the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you.
One letter is received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that building permits will be required.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and do they wish to address the committee? If so, please give us your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good morning through the chair to the committee. Thank you very much. Thank you to staff for working with us through this. My name is Michelle Data, and I'm an environmental engineer with M&T Consulting Group, and address is in Barrie. So again, thank you through the chair to staff for working with us through this application. I think we've worked through a really environmentally responsible solution that improves the situation from the existing cottage being on a holding tank. The new cottage is modest. It's as dealt with through the previous application, consistent with the existing development footprint, and the proposed septic system is really located in the furthest possible location that it could be located. It's a Waterloo biofilter system with the phosphorus treatment, as Deb has mentioned. So we really are taking all efforts possible to make sure this is the most responsible solution. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much. What is the spelling of your last name?
D-A-D-A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. Okay, Member Jarvis.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, and through the chair to Planning Department. I'm curious because in past applications, my understanding is usually septic is something that's always considered. So when we saw this application back in earlier, 24, was septic not even considered? Then how do we overlook this, I guess is my question. I mean, not that I'm, obviously this looks like the best solution considering the circumstances, but I would have thought that septic would have been considered back in 2024 when the original application came in.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll answer this question best I can, and then I'll revert to Michelle for this. At the time, I mean, we were dealing with just the holding tank that was there, and at that time, I don't believe we knew exactly what we would need. Am I correct on that, Michelle? I'll let you finish up that comment.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. To be totally honest, I hadn't been retained at that stage, so I would like it sounds accurate that it wasn't something that was being considered. The thought that the new cottage would need to remain on a holding tank may have been something that was being considered. So
just to follow up, if it's all right, and out of curiosity, so the original building was built in 1930 is the number I saw. Do we know when Little Lake was flooded? Just wondering if the cottage was built when the land was a significantly larger parcel of land, and then it became smaller with the flooding. And at which case, then, the reason I ask is because under any new circumstances, if there wasn't a cottage there and somebody applied to put a cottage there, I think we'd have significant reservations about allowing that to happen. It's all hypothetical, of course. But in 1930, well, things were a lot different anyway. We didn't have any bylaws in place, let alone an OP. But I'm just wondering if the land would have been, there were no significantly bigger parcel of land back then when the cottage was built. I'm just wondering if anybody has an answer to that question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm being very honest. I agree with you 100%. The fact that if it was new cottage being put there today, there would be a lot more issues we would have to look at. But because we're replacing an existing structure, as for when it was flooded, maybe Dave can remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, David would have been around in 19.
Well, Dave,
So,
you were in
yeah,
high school then. weren't
I
you?
don't know the answer to that. I apologize. I can find out if you'd like at some
No,
point.
no, no.
Okay.
Again, it was out of curiosity, and there's no need to really, David, to answer the question. I just, out of curiosity, maybe we can do it offline. And my only follow up to that is, I guess, we're making the best of this situation with this. Okay, thank you.
Member Predko, you had a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair. And through you, question for actually our building official as well as our planner. First question to our building official. It's a chicken and egg, cart and a horse kind of question about the blasting permit that's going to go to council after this minor variance. And then, of course, it would be nice to know if at a committee of adjustment, if we had a blasting permit that made it, feasible to have this minor variance. But I'm just curious in terms of the need for blasting, and perhaps it's even the agent for the owner. Many times we see land built up above the rock with extra soil and sand for the septic tank to function properly. And in this instance, is that not a feasible solution? It would have to be blasting. It doesn't look like that high in elevation in the photographs that are provided.
If I can interject, I'll answer that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So through the chair, where the actual system itself is going is being dug into the ground. What happens when they start being raised above the grade is the setback requirement increases. So this is why it's more practical to put the bed where it was proposed, dug into the ground, blast out the area that is where that rock is, and then bring in proper fill for the loading and mantle area.
Okay, well, thank you. That's pretty clear. And just quickly to our planner. So the first minor variance application, do you know, have all the conditions been satisfied on that application or to move forward with building?
We're not quite there. We're getting close, but this came about when we were dealing with the zoning certificate portion of it. So part of the zoning certificate's been issued for the house, part of it, but this of course is part of it as well, right? So septic and dwelling go together. So
okay. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I appreciate for the resident and this is probably more than you thought you were getting bargained for. So I appreciate the complexity that you're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Member Rivet.
Thank you. Through you to the planner. In accordance with bylaw 2025-045, there is requirements for site plan approval and or site plan agreement. I don't know the difference between an approval and an agreement, but considering the scope of this, and I do just want to say this council or this committee did consider the septic. It was talked about in the last application, and it was just kind of, oh, you can't, that's not before you now, that'll be for the building department later. But perhaps if we'd known that there was blasting accompanied with it, the scope creep is a concern to me when it keeps coming back. In this case, I would like to see the site plan agreement, not just an approval, just to make sure that that we really watch the development on this because of the eroding property. So that would be my recommendation.
And through you, Mr. Chair, that's what I had mentioned earlier, that I'm adding a condition that the owner apply for and obtain site plan approval and enter into a site plan agreement relating specifically to the new septic design and phosphorus treatment.
Yes, thank you. Because I just don't understand if there's a difference between an approval and an agreement.
Yes, there is.
And if that's the case in this case. Yep. Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments? Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, I'm sure this is probably a redundant question, but I'm assuming that the flow of the septic will be more towards the road versus the lake, like the tank and where it's going to flow to, or will it be just self-contained? Or I'm just worried about runoff and making sure it's not going to go back into the lake.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. No, the whole point of the loading area in the mantle, Dave, is so that it flows from the system through that area and everything ends up in the lake. It will end up in the lake like most septic systems. It's treated though. The whole idea and design behind the septic system, like any septic system, is that it's treated before it hits the water table or the lake bed.
Okay. Thank you. I have a hand raised by Member Schmidt, and we'll follow that by Member Predko.
I understand and respect the potential concerns raised. I am quite familiar with the Waterloo biofilter system. It's been utilized on numerous properties that I've been involved with. There is not a better, safer. This is a system that virtually by the time it comes out, it's almost potable water. Like it is. Can you roughly share the cost of this sophisticated system on that property? Because I don't want to over embellish it at all.
Through the chair, I would estimate this system will run probably around $75,000.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, when there's concerns about septic system, size of property, bedroom use, when you utilize this system, you have checked the boxes the best you possibly can from an environmental standpoint. So I just want to clarify what that system is, and thank you for that.
Good question. Yes. Member Predko, you had it. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Member Jarvis, please.
I see the chair's eyesight is as good as my hearing. Just a follow-up for Kaylee. I'm not sure I heard your explanation correctly, but from this septic system after the septic system is done doing what it's doing, is this effluent flowing back into the lake or is it going into a septic bed?
Well, we're talking about when it's finished. So it comes out of the system and then it flows through the loading area in the mantle, which will be the entire area basically between where the actual system is and the shoreline. And when it eventually hits the lake or when it hits the water table, like any septic system, then it is deemed to be treated. That's the way the entire building code is set up. That's the reason they have these minimum setbacks in place. And that's why they have certain requirements for designs of septic systems. So when it does hit the water table or when it does hit the lake, they're deemed treated when that system is installed in accordance with the Ontario Building Code.
And would this type of system be allowed on other locations, or we sort of
Nope.
allowing an exception on this one?
No. It's an approved system.
Thank you.
It just, what it does is a higher quality of treatment before it leaves the tank.
Hence the increased cost, I presume. Okay.
We have some additional clarification from Ms. Data.
Through the chair, just to maybe add a little bit to what Kaylee's noted, is the disposal bed of this system coming out of the Waterloo treatment system is actually in accordance with the Ontario Building Code. So we do meet the sizing and all of the setbacks that are dictated under the Ontario Building Code here. We do need a variance because in this township, we do have some larger setback requirements that we're seeking relief on, but the disposal bed itself does meet the Ontario Building Code. Thank you.
To clarify, the disposal bed meets the OBC, but doesn't meet ours.
Through the chair, that's correct. We're seeking relief
Okay.
for that
Yeah.
based on the lot constraints. And maybe if I can just add to the flow of the water, we were happily surprised that when we went out and did some test pits on this property that we did find deeper overburden closer to the property line. So we didn't need to set back or seek relief for the disposal bed by raising it up. So really the blasting is related to a rock outcrop that's basically between where the piping of the disposal bed will be through the loading area and the water. So we're basically blasting out a rock that will allow positive kind of shallow groundwater flow towards the lake through that loading area without having to raise the whole system up above it. So yeah, professionally, I think it's a nice solid design. Of course, the blasting I'm sure was a bit of a surprise for everyone, but it was really when we got in there and did some test pitting late spring that we were able to come up with a solid design for the system. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I'll read the resolution. It is moved by Member Jarvis and seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A25-33 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 for 80 Valley Road to facilitate the installation of a Class 4 septic treatment system to include a Waterloo biofilter treatment unit, a raised dispersal bed with phosphorus removal, and a 15-meter extended contact area for effluent treatment and dispersal as described below, with the following conditions. One, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from the Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. Two, that the proposed sewage treatment system is substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out in this application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And three, that the owner apply for and obtain a blasting permit as per bylaw 2016-64 prior to applying for and obtaining a zoning certificate. Four, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of the decision from the township, only after a committee's decision becomes final and binding. And five, that the owner apply for and obtain its site plan approval and enter into a site plan agreement relating specifically to the new septic system design and phosphorus management treatment. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next application this morning is number A25-28 for 104 Bollocks Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. The subject lands are operated as 6 Mile Lake Marina, municipally known as 104 Bollocks Road. The property has an area of 1.84 acres with 2 frontages onto 6 Mile Lake. The subject lands are zoned Marine Commercial Type 1, Exception 1. The primary use of the lands is a commercial marina operation, with the existing detached dwelling being an accessory use. The property currently contains several buildings related to the marina use, such as covered docks, workshops, boat storage structures, and a retail store. Similar to most other marine commercial zoned properties throughout the township, the property for the most part is cleared of dense vegetation to provide adequate space for the operation of a commercial marina. The subject property has a legal non-complying lot coverage of 16.71%, with the majority of the property being developed in the 1970s. The proposal seeks to expand the gross floor area of the existing detached dwelling to permit a greater workshop area on the ground floor and greater living space on the second floor. Due to the existing lot coverage being considered legal non-complying, the application to increase the size of the accessory detached dwelling can be considered an expansion of a legal non-complying use. The proposed lot coverage will increase to 19.38%, whereas Section 12.4 permits a lot coverage of 8%. The existing development of the subject property is consistent amongst similarly zoned marine commercial properties on inland lakes throughout the township. This particular marine commercial exception zone limits the number of boat slips to 60 per hectare of land and has a maximum lot coverage of 8%. These type of limitations are similar amongst all 4 marine commercial exception zones, as marinas serving a high number of seasonal dwellings that are water access only generally require greater open space for the provision of seasonal boat and boat trailer storage and for vehicle parking. It is likely that the limit on the maximum lot coverage for the marine commercial exception zone was established to ensure this open space and parking was preserved. In the case of the application as proposed, the dwelling expansion will be, for the majority, occurring in the area already occupied by the existing dwelling and attached decks. The expansion will not decrease the amount of parking or boat storage present on the property. The area of the proposed expansion is clear of vegetation, being within an existing landscaped area. The expansion will not be expected to conflict with the location of neighboring sightlines or amenity areas. Besides lot coverage, the proposed dwelling is compliant with all other relevant sections of the zoning bylaw. This variance application, being an expansion of a legal non-complying use, will be tested under Section 45(2) of the Planning Act. Only the proposed expansion may be evaluated for undue adverse impacts. In order to refuse the application, the undue adverse impacts of the proposed expansion must be demonstrated by objective evidence and must be sufficient to override the property owner's right to reasonable flexibility, evolution, and expansion. The committee can either approve or deny the variance being requested. The committee may also defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the variance to the zoning bylaw and are recommending approval subject to the conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, has there been any correspondence on this application?
One letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that building permits will be required. 15 letters of support were received from Jim Partington, Robert Smith, Deborah Smith, John Kelly, Paul Palma, John Howard, Patman, Vander Boscourt, Jamie Lawley, Lois and Craig Lang, Christine Morrison, Dean Ponzo, Donna Presley, Gary Jarvis, John Evans, and Dave Kitts.
And did you want to talk about this?
Apologies, I don't have the current version of the script in front of me. And 2 letters of objection were received from the neighboring property owners, Michael Corbett and Jeff and Tammy Sheplow, expressing concern for existing buildings that encroach on their properties.
Thank you. Just a little bit of clarification on that before we go forward. Mr. Johnson, you mentioned that 45(2) means that we need to consider just those 2 items, the building itself and nothing else.
That's correct.
Okay. So with that in mind, I would ask, is the applicant present, and do they wish to address the committee on this application?
Yes, they do. They're online and moving them over.
They're online, okay. I don't see them on my screen.
Mr. Corbett, Mr. Gregory, you need to accept the promotion in order to speak.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Shane Gregory, agent for the owners at 104 Volux Road. I appreciate the presentation put together by the planning staff. I don't have too much to add onto what was already mentioned. We are looking at expanding an existing dwelling that's on the property by use of demolition and new construction for the owners to carry on with what their everyday procedures at the property. I'm happy to answer any questions that pertain to the building and the variances that we've applied for, and would look forward to moving forward to working with the building department on our permit approvals.
Okay, thank you for that, and we will ask you to stand by then in case there are any questions. Mr. Corbett, are there any comments from yourself? I'm not sure whether you've heard me, Mr. Corbett. I can. Okay, then I'll assume that there are no further questions. If that are all the the online questions that we have from the applicant or his agent, I would also ask any member of the public that is either present or online that has any
Sorry,
questions.
I apologize, Chair. I had technical difficulties. This is Michael Corbett, 127 Volux Road.
Okay, your volume's a little low, Mr. Corbett. If you could either speak a little louder or.
I can. Sorry about that.
Thank you. And you are a neighboring property, Mr. Corbett? Well, again, we can't hear you, so.
Through the chair, Mr. Corbett would be considered a member of the public.
Okay, but he's has a neighboring property.
That's correct.
Yeah. He's a neighbor. Okay, and are we not able to communicate here? I can't hear him. Okay.
Are you able to hear now?
Just in and out. We got a couple of words there.
I apologize.
We got both of those.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, is there some comment you wish to make, Mr. Corbett? Please go ahead.
My concern is with regards to going ahead and having non-compliant buildings already present on the property itself, as well as other bylaw issues. Although I believe that the construction is a great thing for the property itself, I don't believe that at the end of the day, these minor variances should go ahead and be approved, as these were built and have not been complied with the bylaws of the town. So therefore, I'm asking that no new permits be granted until the issues are satisfactorily addressed with regards to the property.
Can you be more specific? I'm not aware of it.
So I can be more specific, yes. So number one, there are 3 encroachments on the property, which you can clearly see in the survey on my particular property, where there are existing buildings that are not abiding by the setbacks associated with the town's bylaws, number one. Number 2 is my neighbor, Jeff Chaplot, who also sent a correspondence. The docks that are on the property are not compliant with the setbacks associated with the town's bylaws. And then we can go into other issues with regards to the property itself. However, you're talking about heights of buildings, has challenges, as well as if you look at the survey itself, it shows that it has a 0.58 meter setback from the road allowance, which I believe the bylaws require that it's a 4-meter setback from the road allowance for any buildings. So there seems to be some major challenges with the bylaw infringement, and I'm just asking the council to look at deferring the decision until some of these things have been addressed, most importantly, the ones that are encroachments.
Okay, I will go back to the planner, but I just point out that the application before us has to do with just the demolition and reconstruction of the building that's there. The other issues that or some of the other issues that you mentioned you'd need to resolve those through a different method than the Committee of Adjustment.
Yeah, there's a currently I am pursuing legal with getting these encroachments resolved. So it is a civil issue. But what I'm saying is I don't necessarily agree that these are all civil issues, that the town needs to deal with some of these zoning bylaws, because you can obviously see that a lot of the setbacks have not been approved, and they haven't been addressed by any minor variances.
Okay, and again, that's an issue that's outside the purview of the Committee of Adjustment. We're trying to deal with this application as a standalone issue here.
Okay.
But appreciate you joining us and giving us your comment.
No, I appreciate the time to be able to go in and address it. Again, really concerned that the bylaws are not being enforced on this particular property. But as you said, you're only able to look at one piece of the application.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you again. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before committee for any questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Graziano.
Thank you, and through you, the Chair, a question with regards to staff, and I want to just reconfirm that we are only to focus on the application request at hand, not to go beyond the scope of what is being requested here. And with that said, and I see some head shaking, when I only put my focal point towards the application, and knowing the marina, as I'm a 6 Mile Lake resident myself, I can say unequivocally there's been numerous times where at late nights I have had to knock on the door requesting gas because unfortunately I have not had fuel. I know the applicant family quite well, given my working relationship with them as they own the marina, and I know that the family is quite large. There's a larger family that will likely be occupying this property. I believe that there's a total of 7, if not more, that likely would be there. The services that they provide are invaluable to the community. We only have 2 marinas, one on the north side of the lake, one on the south side, servicing the whole lake community of about somewhat of 850 some odd cottages. A large portion of those are water access, and I would say that in offering this applicant the ability to work late nights, service community requirements, and then retire home without having to commute would be an ideal situation for everyone on our lake. And so as such, I'm not so concerned with regards to the requested relief. Rather, I do want to see the family have the ability to stay close to home and work according to the expectations, because the lake has high demands, especially in winter, as boats are being winterized and so on, and the other services that they provide. So all in all, I do support this. With respect to comments made by Mr. Corbett, he is pursuing the correct channels. If there are encroachments, having experienced this situation myself, the legal channels are the appropriate course of action, and I understand that he is pursuing that. So again, I would just suggest to him that he continue to pursue that should he feel that that's the best course of action for himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Member Schmidt.
Thank you, through you, Chair Hill. I just wanted to add, there was a potential comment there about lot coverage with being able to retain appropriate boat storage on that property. The Hooper family does have 34 acres adjacent to that for additional overrun storage because as Member Graziano, Councillor, whatever heck I'm calling you today, is depending on which hat you're wearing, there is a very high demand of need for the marinas, being we only have 2 on our entire lake, and I wholeheartedly support this application before us. It'll be a good improvement. They've done nothing but improve that property since they've taken ownership of it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Member Rivet, please.
Thank you. I know it's not before us, but I don't want to lose sight of the potential impact to this property. So my question is, considering the new building that's going up with 5 bathrooms, a pantry, a kitchen, where will the septic be to accommodate this brand new, like there's so many more facilities in this building. Where's the septic going to be? I don't want to like approve this and then they find out, gosh, there's no septic. Now you got to come back again and there is no room for a septic. The other question I have is in regard to coverage, with the legal action going on about those buildings, if those buildings have to be moved back into this footprint, is that going to impact the coverage? Those are my 2 questions.
Through the chair, in terms of the septic, that'll be addressed at the time of the permit stage. I believe on the site plan it is noted. I will go and look at that. Just to answer your second question, the complete area of all those buildings, regardless of if they were within the boundaries or outside of the boundaries, were added towards lot coverage. So if, say, the legal action resulted in those buildings moving within the boundaries, lot coverage wouldn't change. If the legal action resulted in the boundary expanding, lot coverage would actually decrease.
Can you show me where on the plan is the septic? I mean, we don't want to have I want to avoid coming back to. Yeah, I can't see it. Because I couldn't tell it. I would still like to know about the sizing of the septic, considering the amazing. There's a lot of increase on.
Great. Through the chair, unfortunately, from the planning department point of view, I can't comment on what the requirements will be. It's a question for the building department. I wish we still had Dave sitting here, but I could get that answer for you and provide it to you after the meeting. Kaylee did, I think, provide comments that building permits would be required. I don't know if included in that the septic review would be required, but it would certainly be part of the building review.
My concern is because we do have complaints and this is it is a big development that to come back and say, gosh, now we got a blast, that I don't want. I would like to avoid that. So I would like to understand if the septic is big enough for this development.
Yeah, again, that would be a question for the building department, not part of the application here. So, is there any other questions or comments? Member Jarvis.
Sure, you don't want to check with Member Matthews first, or apropos of comments made by Member Rivet, I too share that concern, especially in light of the first the application we had before this one, where something had to be dealt with after we'd already approved the expansion of the build, and I'm very, very concerned about that. I understand our situation is different. I'm hoping that maybe with our OP review, we can consider how we include septic reviews at time of application for expansion of buildings, as opposed to after the fact when we've already approved an expansion and yet that we don't know what the status of the septic is. I think that's a huge concern. I don't know that it's going to be a concern here, but it is something that is a concern front and center with me. And just and as follow-up to that, whenever I see legal non-conforming, legal non-complying, and then on top of that, the building is already, or the lot coverage is already 2 times what is allowed, and this is non-complying, and then they're adding for further expansion, I am concerned. I understand this is a commercial property, and maybe we should be also considering how we handle commercial properties in a review of the OP, but there is a real concern that we're cart before the horse type of situation here. Yes, I know we're not dealing with the septic right now, but maybe we should be. Thank you.
I would ask Director Whitlib if you would have a comment, basically addressing the discussion of sewers when applications are before the committee.
Thank you. Through the chair to the committee. So the applications are circulated, among other things, to departments and department heads, and building does do their review. And although it's not explicitly stated when building provides a comment that says appropriate permits will be required, there is a septic review in it. Now, obviously, we're seeing here today, once in a while, things sometimes require some revisiting, but that is part of the review. Having said that, it's not something we need to bake into the official plan, but I think as an operational matter, happy to have that discussion in-house to ensure that, as fulsome as possible, the septic component of it is looked at to ensure that it is captured when it can be early in the process. But that is already baked in. It just obviously every once in a while those questions do come up later at the detailed design stage.
Thank you for that input. Are there any further questions or comments? Member Schmidt.
No, go ahead, Member.
That's very kind. Member Matthews, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Hill. I hear what you're saying about the septics and stuff, but this is nothing new. Every application we get is the same way. I think it's top of mind right now because of the one that came forward about the blasting. So I think we need to keep that in mind. I agree, it's a chicken and egg type of scenario, but I'm sure we'll work through it. I just also want to comment, I guess, further to Mr. Graziano's comment about them living on the property. I'm quite involved with the Honey Harbor Boat Club. We have our manager and assistant manager living on the property. It is a huge asset to have people on the property, not only for those who can't seem to remember to get the boats filled on time, but also from a security standpoint. So I think this is probably a good, I'm not familiar with the marina, but the concept is a good one in my opinion.
Thank you. Member Smith, follow up.
Yeah, I just want to follow up, and I echo the comments as well about the we just dealt with something that was going to have a permit, but they can't get a permit if they don't have an appropriate septic system to do it. So that's the checks and balances that stops this from happening. So if we get to the septic stage and there's an issue, then we look at it, we make an agreement, do we support it, we're willing to do it, and then we go ahead. In this instance right here, this is probably going to be a Waterloo biofilter situation. If you saw the size of footprint that you require for a large commercial building in a rural area, it would blow your mind how sophisticated that system is. If the Hoopers need to make that investment to get this approved, to be able to build the structure of their choice, I can assure you they're prepared to make that investment if that's what they have to do. They will not do anything detrimental to the water quality of the lake. I feel that strongly about that family. So.
Thank you very much for those comments. If there are no further questions or comments, I will read the resolution. I'm sorry, where? On. Oh, okay.
No, I lowered it. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that there are no further questions or comments, I'll read the resolution. It is moved by Member Predko and seconded by Member Jarvis. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A25-28 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended for 104 Bollocks Road to facilitate the expansion of a detached dwelling accessory to a marina as described below. 1, an increase in lot coverage to 19.38% where legal non-compliant lot coverage of 16.71% currently exists, and whereas the zoning bylaw allows for a maximum lot coverage of 8%. The above noted approvals are subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And 2, that the proposed detached dwelling be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 3, that the applicant apply for and obtain an amendment to the existing site plan agreement, including, if required, the execution and registration of the amended site plan agreement against the title of the lands. And 4, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next minor variance application is number A25-29 for 195 Sanctuary Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, the next item on the agenda is application A2529 for 195 Sanctuary Road. The subject property, known as 195 Sanctuary Road, is comprised of 0.43 hectares with a frontage on 6 Mile Lake of 228.6 meters. The lot is a peninsula on 6 Mile Lake and has been kept mostly in a natural state. The parcel has mature tree cover with more of a landscaped area on the road side of the dwelling and a natural shoreline. At the present time, and according to MPAC, there is a 167.78 square meter single detached dwelling, a 71.35 square meter detached garage, a 22 square meter carport, and a 29.73 square meter sleeping cabin constructed in 1949. The proposed addition to the detached garage is to be constructed on the road side of the garage structure. In June 2025, the owners applied for a pre-application consultation, which was issued by the township on June 2nd, 2025. The existing 71.35 square meter garage was constructed in 2005. The garage was permitted to be constructed without the benefit of a minor variance for the non-complying setbacks as per zoning bylaw 910119. The existing garage does not meet the minimum required setbacks of both the zoning bylaw 9119 and zoning bylaw 2014-75. The owner is proposing a 53.29 square meter addition to the existing garage for additional storage space. The existing detached garage was constructed in 2006 and approved at the time with a lesser setback. Therefore, staff are recognizing the structure as legal non-complying with the variances to be considered under section 45(2) of the Planning Act. The floor area of the garage will be increased by 53.14 square meters to allow for additional floor space in the structure. Due to the topography of the lot and the fact the property is a peninsula, the location of the proposed addition was chosen based on these factors. The proposed enlargement will be in keeping with the residential lots in the 6 Mile Lake community and will cause very little disturbance to the existing mature vegetation on the property. Although the proposed addition will be 2.2 meters closer to the high water mark than the existing garage, it will not be visible from the northerly property line abutting the water due to the mature vegetation. The location of the proposed addition to the garage will not have any negative effects on the shoreline. 8 letters of support have been received by the neighbors of the subject property. The committee can either approve or deny any one of the requested variances. The committee can defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the application and are recommending approval subject to the recommended conditions, including the requirement of applying for and obtaining site plan approval if deemed appropriate by the Director of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
1 letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits will be required, and 8 letters of support were received from Renier Bonhouse, R.J. Wilson, John Elliott, Carol Chapman, and John Skaves, Mark Lavelle, Sita Dubois, Steve Bennett, and Des McKinney.
Thank you. Is the applicant present, and do they wish to address the committee with additional information other than what was supplied by our planning department? Please identify yourself with your name and address.
Hi, Mr. Chair. My name is Kevin Plew. I'm at 195 Sanctuary Road. I'll be brief. Just want to really thank the planning department. They were great throughout this process. and I wanted to be present to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there any member of the public present that wishes to address the committee, either publicly, physically here or online? I don't see anyone. With that, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And Member Graziano.
Thank you, Worship. And I think what was missing in staff's report, which they did a fantastic job in doing, is some context with regards to the local area. This particular application affects me as I have two properties that are visible to the Plews. Mr. Plew is my neighbor. For additional context in this committee here today, Mr. Plew is a large contributor to our road and its viability both in the summertime and the wintertime. Mr. Plew and I both have tractors that are used to plow, and Kevin is out there, repairing the road at any given time for the majority of us that are along that road, and that's quite a large road. In addition to that, the applicant has received a whole series of letters of support. These are all immediate neighbors of his, providing that support as well. And so absent of that context, it's helpful to understand that the community, specifically within the greater area, all appreciate his contributions and are very much in support of his requested extension. I can only imagine that Mr. Plew will have some additional implements that are used throughout the course of the year working on our road, and as such needs to grow his garage somewhat. He's also, I would say, a 90% resident, not full-time yet, but I think he spends more time up there than a full-timer. So with that said, that's my conclusion. I fully support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Member Schmidt.
Through your Chair Hill. I just wanted to add that I did a site visit too as well to this property. I think this building addition is going to make getting into the plow truck a little more pleasant in the middle of the winter, and also that it is completely, this entire property is encased in trees, save and except for the Muskoka or the sunroom on the side of the property is the only thing that's visible from the water. So this will have no negative effect on the neighboring area. So I support this as well.
Any further questions? Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarity, I guess, Ms. McCabe. They talk about a lean-to addition. Is this not going to be enclosed as a full garage? And if not, why not? And if you're dealing with winter projects.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't remember saying it was a lean-to addition.
You may be confused with another application.
There is a lean-to on the property.
Yeah.
That has wood in it. Yes. That's probably what I was referring to. There is a lean-to, but this is not a lean-to addition.
I'm suggesting that maybe it should be a full garage. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, through the chair. I really have no further comments. This seems to be totally appropriate. Maybe we should be checking on the septic.
Right, yeah. Very good. Duly noted. Thank you, Member Jarvis. If there are no further questions or comments, I will read the resolution. It's moved by Member Schmidt and seconded by Member Rivet. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A25-29 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 for 195 Sanctuary Road to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the construction of a 53.29 square meter addition to the existing garage as described, where the front yard setback will be 15.5 meters and the maximum ground floor area will increase to 124.64 square meters, subject to the following conditions. One, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And two, that the proposed addition to the An existing detached garage is substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 3, that the owner acknowledges and agrees that there is no human habitation permitted within the enlarged detached garage pursuant to Township of Georgian Bay zoning bylaw 2014-75. And 4, that the applicant apply for and obtain site plan approval from the Township of Georgian Bay, including, if required, the execution and registration of a site plan agreement against the title of the lands. And 5, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of the decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next application this morning is A25-30 for 36 Murphy's Road. To the planner, please.
Through the chair. The lands are designated waterfront and zoned shoreline residential type 1. The shoreline contains type 2 fish habitat. The lands are located within a stratum 2 deer wintering area with moderate wildfire hazard rating. The lands are also identified as having high to very high archaeological potential and are located within a flood hazard. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the expansion of the deck attached to the front of the dwelling. Staff understand the deck was constructed around the same time as the dwelling in the late 60s, making it legal non-complying. The tests for an application for permission to expand a legal non-complying structure are whether the application is desirable for appropriate development of the subject property and whether the application will result in undue adverse impacts on the surrounding properties and neighborhood. The subject property has an area of approximately 4,470 square meters with a frontage of 47.9 meters on Gibson Lake. The proposed expansion reduces the front yard to 9.79 meters and increases the area by 21.89 square meters, while increasing its projection into the front yard from 7.69 meters to 10.21 meters. As shown on the site plan, the minimum required interior side yard setback of 5 meters is being exceeded on both sides, with setbacks of 8.25 meters and over 19.28 meters. The proposed development will result in a lot coverage of 5.04% or 225.44 square meters, which is well below the permitted maximum of 7% or 312.9 square meters. The current deck layout functions primarily as a circulation space around the front of the dwelling to the side yards, rather than as an accessory structure intended for lounging or sunbathing, as defined in the Township zoning bylaw. No tree removal is necessary to accommodate the expansion. Mature trees along the side lot lines provide effective screening of the deck, mitigating privacy concerns. Staff conducted an analysis of the applicable planning legislation and are recommending approval. For the committee to deny the variances, the undue adverse impacts of the proposed expansion must be demonstrated by objective evidence and must be sufficient to override the property owner's right to reasonable flexibility, evolution, and expansion. The committee can defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Has there been any correspondence on this application?
One letter is received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits will be required.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and do you wish to address the committee? Please have a seat and give us your name and address.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Cassie Harris from Bird Custom Home Design. My address is in Innisfil. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much to the planning department. You've been super helpful throughout this process and you've provided a very detailed report. And I'm here just to answer any questions that anyone might have in regards to the presentation.
Okay, thank you. And I understand the applicant is online as well. Is there anything that you wish to add to the comments of the planner?
Nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the public present that wishes to address the committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Jarvis.
Thank you. Through the chair, just making an observation more than anything else. The application notes that 4 meters would be the normal requirement as far as the encroachment. It's currently, I hope I got my numbers right. It's currently existing currently at 7.69, and the proposal puts it at 10.21. So if you take the difference between what would normally be allowed at 4 meters and the current request at 10.21 meters, you're looking at 150% increase in encroachment to the front yard, which seems rather extreme. I'm not going to argue the fact that it doesn't look like it's going to be an issue from the standpoint of view from the canoe. I'm worried that if it were a new build, again, they'd be restricted to that 4 meter encroachment. Obviously, can we request for more? I really make the observation we're looking at 150% increase. I hope I got my number right on that, and that to me seems fairly significant. I'm not going to be opposed to this, but it is a fairly significant ask in that context.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Okay, Member Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, just a question to the planner or to the agent. The property looks like it's going through a number of different redevelopments, and just to confirm that we won't be seeing any other minor variances for these they're all compliant with zoning bylaws?
Through the chair, this came to be from a pre-application consultation, and staff reviewed the entirety of the proposed development on the lands, which included some small additions to the dwelling, additions to the buildings in the rear, and things like that. Because I understand what's happening here is I believe they're demolishing and reconstructing, or potentially just taking a very extensive renovation project. So this is actually a reduced proposal from what was originally presented through the pre-application consultation process. And I do want to clarify the projection. That requirement is measured from a required yard being 20 meters. But as we know, this building is legal non-complying and doesn't even meet the 20 meters. So that's why it's such a large number you're seeing for the projection.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, and that satisfies my questions. And the second septic is obviously not a problem. It's very far back on the property, and just thought I'd mention septic because I haven't talked about that yet.
Through the chair.
Thank you for that input, Member
Through the
Predko.
chair, if I may, I believe they actually received a zoning certificate and potentially even the building or septic permit already for the proposed development.
Just on that, could you describe in a little bit more detail the zoning certificate? What does it entail?
Through the chair, they submitted a zoning certificate application for the septic system. I was a planner on the file, reviewed it for compliance with setbacks from the water, side lot lines, other buildings. It did comply with those requirements of the zoning bylaw, so it was issued from planning. And I believe if they have not done so already, they have maybe in the process of receiving their septic permit. So that would be the next stage.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Member Rivet.
Yes, question through you, Chair. Is the application before us to expand the existing non-compliant or to level it and build brand new?
I can answer that question. So they purchased this as a cottage and they are planning to renovate it. And what you see is basically what you get, and they're going to add some additions on. They're going to expand the deck. They are not going to demolish and rebuild.
My only concern on Gibson Lake is the fact that the water levels are so irregular that the water level comes up so high in the spring. I'm always concerned about permissions and variances on Gibson Lake because of that very reason, especially on a low-lying area. They seem to have a bit of a rock outcropping out front, which might protect them, but we have to be aware that the levels on Gibson Lake fluctuate highly.
And we did consider that in the pre-application consultation. That did come up, and that is the reason why we did change our application. And there was a small addition out front, and we did remove that due to the floodplain issue.
Okay, I just wanted clarification that it's an expansion, not a total rebuild.
Not a
Otherwise,
total
the question
rebuild.
would be, can't you meet the setback? So thank you for that.
Very good. Member Schmidt.
Thank you again, through you, Chair Hill. I had the opportunity to do a site visit on this property. This is one of those classic situations where you see the numbers on the page and you think, kind of wow, but this is a very it's a beautiful cottage, but it's certainly humble in comparison to a lot of, it is a cottage. And where the property is situated, like from a floodplain level, if you look at page 130 or 147, you can see the neighboring property, and the one beyond is closer to the water, lower set. This is set in quite a nice setting on that rock cropping. So I think the net improvement is going to be great.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Jarvis and seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the following variances requested under minor variance application A25-30. 1, expansion of a legal non-complying deck, reducing the front yard to 9.79 meters and increasing the floor deck area by 21.89 square meters in a required front yard, being 20 meters from the shoreline, whereas section 4.11A subsection I permits the expansion of a legally existing structure providing the front yard is not reduced and or the floor area is in the required yard is not increased. And number 2, a deck encroaching 10.21 meters into the required 20-meter front yard, whereas an encroachment of 7.69 meters exists and an encroachment of 4 meters is permitted under section 4.20A of the zoning bylaw, and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. 2, that the proposed deck be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 3, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of the decision from the township only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you. Our next application is A25-31 for 210 Stewart Lake Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The following presentation is for a public meeting of a minor variance A25-31 on the lands municipally known as 210 Stewart Lake. The subject property has an area of, doesn't seem to be updating.
We're just having some technical difficulties. If you'll just hold on a moment.
It's showing here, but it's not.
Would you like me to go to the next application and come back to that one following it?
Just one moment. We're in the process of pulling up the presentation and sharing it through someone else's laptop.
Oh,
For
okay.
some reason, it's not communicating with,
If you need any
yeah.
assistance,
I
we
don't know how
have
to explain
member,
it, but.
we have member drivers available if you need. Okay, we'll have an opportunity to advance right now because it's working. Carry on.
Okay. The subject property has an area of 0.35 acres and a frontage of 30.07 meters. It is located on the northeastern shore of Stewart Lake with public road access via Stewart Lake Road. The property is currently containing a detached dwelling, dryland boathouse, 3 sheds, a privy, a gazebo, and 2 docks. The side yards of the property are forested in a natural state, while the front and rear yards are somewhat cleared. The site on which the gazebo is located is in the interior side yard, and the neighboring property to the south are encased by vegetation. The applicant is seeking relief from the zoning bylaw to legalize a gazebo that is located in the interior side yard. The gazebo complies with all setbacks barring the interior side and is located well beyond the front and rear yard setback requirements and beyond accessory structure separation provisions. To legalize the placement of the existing gazebo, variances are required to address sections 4.1.7 and 6.3 of the zoning bylaw. While the applicant initially applied for a lot coverage variance to include the development of a detached garage and sunroom, planning staff determined that lot coverage will not be increased by the garage or sunroom, as the proposed garage will replace 2 sheds while the existing second-story deck already exceeds the 1.2 meters in height and is therefore included in the calculation of lot coverage. Section 4.1.7 speaks to the minimum yard requirements for accessory buildings. For shoreline residential or shoreline residential island zone lots, the minimum interior side yard requirement for any building is 5 meters, where the applicant is proposing 1.11 meters. Minimum interior side yard setbacks exist to provide sufficient space between the building and the lot lines to allow for safe maintenance and avoid trespassing, prevent privacy concerns, ensure that stormwater runoff is not falling onto neighboring properties, and to limit the visual impact of development from water bodies. Section 6.3 lot coverage limitations in shoreline residential zones exist to create an appropriate balance of natural and built form, prevent overdevelopment, and protect natural heritage. Where 7% maximum is permitted, the applicant proposes 10.24% with a legal non-complying of 9.03 currently. The interior side setback of 1.11 meters would still enable a ladder with a height of 4.44 meters to be pitched at a safe working angle. Privacy would not be a concern for neighboring owners as the gazebo is encased by vegetation, while the adjacent property is larger, sparsely developed, and situated at a lower elevation where the dwelling sits. The topography of the land indicates that stormwater runoff will run downhill towards the front lot line of the property from the gazebo. The gazebo is proposed behind an existing boathouse shielded from the shoreline from the dense mature vegetation and an existing dryland boathouse. The deep vegetated front yard enables a greater than 20-meter depth and enables an appropriate balance of natural and built form from the shoreline perspective. The interior side yard setback of the gazebo maintains a similar setback to the detached garage on the property that is legal non-compliant. And the surrounding properties contain similar clusters of accessory structures noted in orange, as you will see on your screen. The committee can either approve or deny either one of the requested variances or defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to make a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the variance to the zoning bylaw and are recommending approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Mr. Scarrow, Madam Secretary, has there been any correspondence in this application?
One letter is received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that building permits will be required.
Hello, can you folks hear me?
Yes, and could you identify yourself with your name and address, please?
Yeah, sure. It's Lenny Dennis Planning, Box 254, Novar, Ontario, P0A1R0. I've been retained by the Koning Group, the agent for the owner, to assist with planning matters. Certainly appreciate all the efforts of staff bringing the application forward. And obviously, I've had a chance to listen to the presentation and review the comprehensive, thorough, detailed planning report and concur with the planning staff to approve the application, as I too believe that it passes the 4 tests of a minor variance. We have no issues with respect to the conditions. Just very quickly and very briefly, the merits of the proposal. It's mostly an open air structure, and it's low profile, helping reduce the visual impact. It's fairly innocuous and a benign structure on the property. It complies with all the performance standards, save and except for the side yard setback. Sheds are being removed, cleaning up the clutter on the property. It's 29 meters from the shoreline, so well beyond the 20 meter setback. It's screened from the lake by mature tree cover in the existing dryland boathouse that's sort of parked in front of it, if you will. Reflects the character of the area, is noted by the staff's analysis in terms of it being single-family residential building lots and dwellings and accessory structure. I think the staff did a very good job in terms of with respect to the neighbor's property. There's negligible impact. There's adequate distance to maintain the structure. There's sufficient vegetation in the neighbor's property, and the dwelling is located to the front and down the hill from the gazebo, thereby minimizing any visual impact. I wasn't aware of any objections to the application, and would respectfully request committee approve the application, as I don't believe there's any unacceptable adverse impacts. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Is there any member of the public available online that wishes to address? Seeing none, I will bring the matter before the committee for any questions or comments, and we'll begin with Member Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Question to the planner, and that is, I realize I think we're looking at the increase in lot coverage as being one of the areas for variance. And I'm just wondering, what is the net difference between the current state versus the end state? So they're removing a shed, and this gazebo needs to be added into the overall lot coverage. And right now it's 10.24. Do you know what it would be before we make these adjustments?
Yes, I think it's 9.03 at legal non-compliant currently.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Member Jarvis.
Thank you to the planner. Obviously, the setback, side yard setback is one of the issues here that we're dealing with. I'm curious with the side yard setback on the remaining shed, the side yard setback on the garage. Are we not dealing with those? Are going to be dealt with separately, or are they just non-issues with regards to this application?
With regard to the garage, the setback is legal non-compliant right now. So if they're proposing to reconstruct it, but it will actually improve on that existing setback of the shed that's there. So it's not a concern.
It's already existing is what we're getting at here, right? Okay. Final question is, there's a privy that's right on the lot line. I know this is a small dwelling, and maybe the privy is needed. I don't know. Since I don't, I don't see a septic, but anyway, why is the privy being allowed to remain, and why can't that be considered in some context as well as being removed or moved?
Not aware of any correspondence on that. It would be on the applicant to clarify that.
Did you see a privy?
There's a privy on the survey on that the opposite side of the property. It's right up against the property line. It says privy, just down from the shed that's being removed.
Through the chair, this is another legal non-complying structure that we're familiar with. I'm not sure if the applicant has any more information on if there is a septic system installed and if the privy needs to remain, or if there is a possibility of moving said privy.
Yeah, as far as I know, it was never an issue. There is a septic system on the property. There's a tile field sort of in front of the dwelling, and then you can see there's tanks off to the side. But it's there. It's been there for many years.
I think it'd be nice. I mean, there's always trade-offs here that we try and do when we get these types of applications, and I'm much wondering if the owner would consider, as part of this whole package, reducing his overall lot coverage by removing the privy. That's all. I just wonder why it wasn't considered, and if it could be considered.
Yeah, it may be repurposed to a tool shed or something as well. Sometimes that's what happens rather than take the building down.
I'm open to ideas on this, but I just, again, we're dealing with lot coverage is one of the issues here. And here we have something that is possibly not even being used, and it's right on the lot line. So there are two issues here. It's obviously legal non-complying. I understand that, but as a some way of giving away something in order to get something, I would think it'd be nice if they could commit to removing it. That's all. Thank you.
I believe Mr. Whitlip has a comment regarding the privy.
Thank you. Through the chair. So a privy is a Class 1 sewage disposal system recognized under the building code. There's nothing preventing someone from having a Class 4 septic system and a privy. We haven't had any comments of concern from the chief building official who did see the site plan as part of the circulation. Having said that, certainly the committee has the authority under the Planning Act to impose any conditions they deem reasonable.
Could I therefore propose that as part of our acceptance or approval of this, that we add a condition that the privy be removed? Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Member Matthews.
Thank you. So further to Mr. Jarvis's request, can planning tell us what that's going to do to lot coverage?
Through the chair, the privy has a total area of 20 square feet, so that would reduce the lot coverage by 0.1%. So if that condition is added and the privy is removed, we could also edit the resolution as well to permit a lot coverage of 0.1% less than what was originally proposed.
I might suggest that it seems like a lot of work for 0.01%, and we don't know whether the privy is being used or not.
True. Yeah. Point well taken. Yeah. But I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, Member Jarvis. Member Rivet, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Through you, Chair, to the planner. First of all, I don't have a problem with the privy. If the neighbor doesn't, I'm not concerned about that. Sometimes privies are beneficial when your septic fails, so it's really good prevention to have one if it's well maintained. What I would like to know is, I would like to know the size of the gazebo, the size of shed 1, shed 2, and shed 3. And then I would like to know I would like to know those sizes, and I want to know the permitted coverage is 7, existing is 903, and you're asking for 10.24. So I want to know what is in the 10.24 coverage, which is in the 10.24, which of those things?
Beyond what's legally non-complying that exists, it's just the gazebo that's being legalized. It's 270 square feet.
270 square feet?
Yes.
Is the gazebo? Okay.
And 2 of those sheds are to be demolished and replaced by the garage, which is the same lot coverage, so that does not change.
Okay, so the gazebo is added to the 9.3% adds the 270 square foot gazebo.
That is
right?
correct.
That includes, so the 10.24 includes the gazebo.
That is correct.
Okay, but not the garage.
It includes the garage.
It includes the garage?
Yep, because the garage is placing 2 sheds that are being demolished, so that does not change.
And does it include the sun porch?
Yes.
How big is the sun porch?
111, but it's already considered in the lot coverage because the deck is over 1.2 meters in height.
But the sun porch is new, isn't it? They're adding a sun porch? Because there's already
Yes.
a deck on the cottage. So are they adding something to that, or are they just covering in that second floor sun
Through
porch?
the chair, that's correct. They're just covering in the existing second story deck. So the second story deck, because it's above 1.2 meters, measured from the front lot, it's already included in lot coverage.
Okay.
So enclosing it does not change the lot coverage.
Okay, so that does include it. Okay, so my other question is, this property has, are you telling me that they could tear down the privy and put up a garage on that lot line and don't need a variance for it because it's already there? So you're telling me that they can tear down an old shed that was built without a permit under 150 square feet and they can put a garage on that same footprint without a variance?
Through the chair, under section 4.11A of our zoning bylaw, you're permitted to rebuild something under the same area so long that it doesn't encroach further into the side lot lines and so long that it's a accepted use within the zone.
So right now there are 2 utility sheds built without permits, however they're built. So you're saying that anybody can have an old shed on their property line within the setback, tear it down and put up a completely different use of building and not need a variance for that?
Through the chair, those sheds were constructed in the early 60s, as far as we're aware, and they're considered legally non-compliant. So again, under 4.11A, the replacement of a legally non-compliant building so long that it complies with the zone that it is being built in is permitted to be rebuilt.
Okay, so I want to understand. They're tearing down a shed that's like 20 square feet and they're putting up a garage that's 5. 1 second, there's 2 buildings there. So so basically they could tear the privy down and put a garage up.
Through the chair, they can't increase the amount of lot coverage within the yard that it's encroaching upon. So they can't, per se, build a 500 square foot garage where a, 70 square foot or 20 square foot privy exists. So in this case, they're increasing what was there or building like for like, but they're not increasing the amount of ground floor area within that required yard that it's encroaching upon.
I need to get my head around how you can take down you can have a whole bunch of outbuildings on your property well within the setbacks that were never approved. You can add them all together, horse trade all the square footage and say, I'm going to take them all down and put a garage up within the setback and it doesn't need a variance? Is that what I'm understanding?
Can I just quickly add? You go ahead.
One other
Okay, we have to get that question answered, and we have volunteered Mr. Smith to comment on that.
Okay, I just have that's my one question is, I don't understand how buildings built without permits in the setback can be accumulated and then you can trade them all up and put one big building in without a variance. And the second question is, the gazebo is 270 square feet. It has like an oven and a chimney in it. Will that require building OBC? Will that require approval from the building department to make sure not only it's legal to bless it, but make sure it's built correctly because of the oven that's in it?
And was there an answer to that, Mr. Scarrow?
Yes, that's correct. They would need building approval.
So they will need a building permit for that gazebo?
Yes.
Due to the fact that it is now part of this application?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. And are you, okay, now is there?
I just want to understand that someone can have a whole bunch of sheds on the property, and they can tear them all down and total up the square footage and put another building that's completely different
Okay. We've had our planning department explain that a couple of times, so, excuse me, the chair is speaking. The planner did explain that the buildings that you were referring to are ones that were recognized as being non-conforming, so they were recognized.
Were little sheds. They weren't a big building. I just don't understand why the garage still would not require a variance.
Okay, thank you. Member Smith, you had some clarification?
Thank you so much through you, Chair Hill. The confusion that's happening here right now is that if you look at that property prior to, there was an existing garage in that location on a slight pitched angle with closer setbacks than currently proposed on this application. What the confusion is if you do a site visit right now, you can see where the garage has been removed and you only see existing shed 3 that is still there. So there was a garage previously. I have mapping here in front of me, and you can see the existing structure that has been removed as per that site plan. So there was a garage there before. It was closer to the lot line on a slight angle with closer setbacks. We're not talking about removing a 10 by 10 shed and building a big garage. We are taking a garage that was like this.
No.
And then going like this with it.
I totally there's no building garage there that I saw. I saw 2 sheds, one with a big overhang.
I have aerial mapping here if you'd like. You're welcome to have a look at it.
Well, I don't know what was there before, but we can only deal with what's there now.
Okay,
And I just wanted
if I may, we have additional comment from planning. Ms. McKay, please go ahead.
I just want to clarify as well, if the 2 sheds, as both Andrew and Russell had stated, that these 2 sheds were from the 1960s, we don't know if there was a building permit or not. There wasn't any zoning bylaws prior to that. So we have to recognize them as legal non-compliant. Anybody can have a shed, and the next thing you know, now if you have a lot coverage, no, they can't expand it without coming forward to the committee for a variance on an expansion to a legal non-conforming setback or legal non-conforming use or. So will this come back for a variance when they're wrong? No, they don't need. No, it won't. They're not expanding into the required yard.
Yeah, okay. We have Mr. Smith offering additional detail. All right, okay. Then we have one additional question, small question.
Just a small observation.
From Member Jarvis. Please go ahead.
I think part of the confusion is the building that was on the site where the garage currently stands is listed on here as a shed. It was in fact a garage.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any further questions or comments from committee members before we read the resolution? Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Jarvis, seconded by Member Graziano. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A25-31 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended for 210 Stewart Lake Road to facilitate the legalization of an existing gazebo as described below. 1, to decrease in the interior side yard setback to 1.1 meters, whereas section 4.17 subsection A permits a minimum interior side yard setback of 5 meters. And 2, an increase in lot coverage to 10.24%, where a legal non-complying lot coverage of 9.03% currently exists, and whereas section 6.3 permits a maximum lot coverage of 7%. The above noted approvals are subject to the following conditions. 1, that shed 1 as shown on the site plan be removed to facilitate the construction of the proposed garage. 2, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from the Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date concerning the property that is subject to this decision. And 3, that the legalized gazebo be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 4, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of the decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor?
Question first.
You have a question?
I do. Would you allow it?
Yes, what would it be?
Thank you. I'm just curious, we talk about removing shed 2, but there's nothing in the condition about removing sheds. Should that be added?
Good question.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if the committee has the appetite for it, we can add the removal of shed 2 as well.
Then we'll do so just by making a modification here, Madam Clerk. Is that okay? So the above approvals are subject to the following conditions, and the first condition is that shed 1 and shed 2, as shown on the site plan, be removed to facilitate the construction of proposed garage. Good catch, Member Matthews. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing it.
Okay. Having read the resolution, I would ask that all those who are in favor of approval, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. This is our last one, I think. Yes. Our final application is minor variance application A25-32 for 105 John Buckler Road. To the planner, please.
Through the chair. The subject property has an area of 2,835 square meters and a frontage of 30.58 meters on 6 Mile Channel, which is part of the Trent Severn Waterway. The lands are designated waterfront and zoned shoreline residential type 1. The lands are identified as having moderate to high archaeological potential within a deer wintering area known as Stratum 2. The shoreline contains type 2 fish habitat. The property is developed with a detached dwelling featuring a wraparound deck, a sleeping cabin, a shed, a detached garage, boat port, and a dock. The front yard contains a steep granite rock slope that is densely treed, with a staircase and associated landings providing access to the shoreline. The property boundaries are also treed, and John Buckler Road runs through the rear yard, separating the detached garage from the remainder of the development. During staff site visit, staff observed a shed and a boat port. The shed is 2.69 square meters in size. As it is located in the front yard and does not have a setback of 5 meters from the side lot line, it does not comply with the zoning bylaw. The boat port also does not comply with the minimum required 5-meter setback from the straight line projection of the side lot line. The boat port was also not included in the proposed lot coverage calculation. Therefore, staff are recommending the shed and boat port be removed as a condition. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate an expansion to the existing dwelling and associated deck, as well as the construction of a lean-to on the detached garage. The dwelling expansion requires a minimum side yard of 3.04 meters, whereas 5 meters is permitted. The deck proposed at the rear of the addition has a side yard setback of 3.46 meters, and the deck on the front of the addition has a side yard setback of 3.74 meters, whereas 5 meters is permitted. The lean-to has a setback of 2 meters from the rear lot line, whereas 4 meters is required. And the overall development will increase the total lot coverage to 14.1%, whereas a maximum of 10% is permitted. The addition is limited to 22.34 square meters, and despite being in the side yard at a reduced setback, will be screened from view by both water users and the neighboring property, while providing additional living space beyond the minimum required front yard. The side of the proposed addition does not contain any windows. The lean-to is 46.73 square meters in size, and it is well situated, surrounded by forested lands and largely hidden from view by road users. It provides covered outdoor storage in a cleared area next to the existing garage without removing vegetation. Staff have completed an analysis based on applicable planning legislation contained within the associated report and are recommending approval. Recall that staff have included a condition requiring the boat port and shed to be removed as these structures do not comply with the zoning bylaw and are not captured in this application. The committee can either approve or deny any one of the variances. The committee can defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Thank you.
One letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that building permits will be required. Patrick Towns.
Yes, if, Mr. Towns, if you're representing the applicant, please identify yourself, please, for the committee.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is Patrick Towns. I'm a planner with MHBC. We're at 113 Collier Street in Barrie. I'm here on behalf of the owner, Mr. Ordens. Overall, I'll be very brief. We concur with the recommendation of staff through their detailed review of the application presentation. Thank you very much for that. And just by way of a bit of process for committee, so they understand, we did a due diligence for the owner early on in this process. Originally, there was a proposed addition for the room to be closer to the shoreline. We worked with the owner and staff to shift that beyond the 20-meter mark, and that's why it's situated like it is today and require those variances to the side yard lot line. Since septic systems were a hot topic today, the septic system is on the opposite side of the cottage. That's why the addition had to go on this side. Overall, the property is well vegetated. That was referenced. And just a point on the boat port, during initial site visits, the boat port was actually not erected. As at present time, the owner's good with the conditions that have been provided. We agree with the recommendation, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any member of the public present or online that wishes to speak to this application? Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Predko.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the preference.
You're closer.
The boat port, and I realize the condition is that it's being removed from the proposal from the site for the part of the proposal. I just don't understand what kind of boat port it is. Is it a temporary structure? Is it on dry land? Is it a boat lift? I just can't tell from the pictures.
Through the chair, I didn't pay too much attention to it while I was doing my site visit, but I can tell you that it is in water. It has a supporting structure, and then it's tarped as opposed to a hard surface roof.
Okay, so I'm just curious why that was flagged, but I guess it's another structure and setting to.
Through the chair, boat ports are included in lot coverage and they're subject to the side yard setback.
Okay, thank you very much.
And just for clarification, we've had an application before where it's a metal frame with a tarp on the top or tarp material, and that's considered the same as if it was steel and wood.
Okay, thank you.
Member Jarvis.
Thank you, through the chair. And follow up to Member Predko's comments. Removal of the boat port is part of this application. When we say removal of the boat port, I presume we're just removing the metal structure and tarp, that the docking and all that still stays, correct?
The chair, that is correct.
Okay. One other question. So the current lot coverage that you guys have listed, is that including the boat port currently, or is that with the boat port and other items taken out?
Through the chair, the lot coverage currently does not include the boat port. However, the lot coverage they provided did include the 2.69 square meter shed.
Yeah, okay. I just think it's interesting. I mean, the difference between boat port and no boat port is a metal structure. Well, whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Member Schmidt.
How to say? Thank you. I'm having trouble with my mic today. Did a site visit there today, and I'm just sort of curious on the condition of the removal of that shed. That is this. There's some severe topography there. Like there is a hell of a lot of stairs to get to anywhere where you could put anything on that property. It's a small poly shed. Like it's not a. It's hidden in the trees. I understand that there's rules and regulations with setbacks, but like that's a tough. That'd be a tough pill to swallow. I know they're agreeing to do so because obviously in the bigger picture, but I don't see the harm in that small shed for life jackets and all those things that you need to have near the water. That's all. That's my only comment. The rest of it, I have no issue. I didn't even realize when I did the site visit that rear garage is tucked back off the other side of the road. You don't even see it from anywhere. But I just wanted to.
It will be a pretty long haul from that garage down to the boat.
Big time. Big.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Okay.
All right. Or if I could add, I wouldn't police that. If you know what I mean? I would hope that whoever walked by there would just ignore that small little thing there.
We are recording.
I know that.
Okay. Are there any further questions or comments? And I see on here. Okay. Then if there are no further questions or comments, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Schmidt and seconded by Member Jarvis. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the following variances requested under minor variance application A25-32. One, a rear deck having a setback of 3.46 meters and a front deck having a setback of 3.74 meters from the interior side lot line, whereas section 4.1.7a requires a minimum interior side yard of 5 meters. Two, a dwelling with a setback of 3.04 meters from the interior side yard line, whereas the SR1 zone in section 6.3 requires a minimum interior side yard of 5 meters. And three, a maximum lot coverage of 14.1%, whereas the SR1 zone in section 6.3 permits a maximum lot coverage of 10%. And four, a lean-to attached to the existing detached garage having a setback of 2 meters from the rear lot line, whereas section 4.1.7b requires a minimum rear yard setback of 4 meters, and subject to the following conditions. One, that the owner remove from the subject lands an existing shed and existing boat port. Now, we had a discussion as to whether or not it was appropriate to move that shed. Would we be in favor of leaving that shed? A matter of stroking that out? No one is complaining with that? All right.
I would just suggest the notice. Did the notice advise that the shed would come down?
No, this resolution is not part of that notice.
So the original notice didn't indicate that the shed would come down?
This is just here that happens.
Okay.
Okay, very well. I will take that as agreement that we're just going to remove that from the exclusion so that the existing boat port, which do not comply with it, which does not comply with the zoning bylaw. And two, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from the Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And three, that the proposed development be substantially and proportionately in conformity and the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I'd like to thank everyone for today's participation. And I have a final resolution where it's moved by Member Smith, seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment does now adjourn at 12:17 p.m. until September 12, 2025 at 10 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried.